In my opinion, video games are easily the most effective and versatile way to express an idea from their creators. Now, most of the time, every good game has one direction for everything that goes into making it. The art, the story, the gameplay, it all has to work in tandem to be the most enjoyable experience it can be. Now, what if the developers of that game said, hey, why don't we let other people create what they want in this game too? Well, at that point, you just got like the best game ever. You know how many dicks I can make in this, dude? This is sick. In-game level editors date all the way back to 1983 with a little game called Lode Runner. It was a puzzle platformer that had a large emphasis on timing and creating new routes in the terrain by digging through the floor. There wasn't much to it, but it gave this cool option to design your own levels, something that was not really seen before. You had limited space and limited obstacles, but it gave players a way to be creative and express themselves without having to learn how to code a game entirely from scratch. This game influenced a lot of people that had access to pretty much any computer at the time. Because of its widespread success and Hudson Soft's port of Lode Runner to the NES, it kind of started a trend in console gaming that gave players the option of a design mode where you can create your own levels. Excitebike is a notable game, very well known for its design mode as it was used as a big selling point for the game. It might not have been an extensive level editor, but I am positive that if you were a kid who got this game in 1985, this shit would have blown your mind. Imagine getting out of your school's DARE program, going home with your friends, smoking meth, and then making a sick-ass level for your friends to play. I bet your friends would think you're like the coolest person alive for making a map that consisted of only mud pits. Excitebike gave players an empty track to terraform as they pleased with a variety of pre-made obstacles. But whereas Lode Runner had a bird's eye view of the entire area of play, Excitebike had limitations on how much of the track you could see at once, and you scrolling to load in new portions of the track as you go. Because of this, the way that you edit portions of the track is to just drive down it. The pre-made obstacles are placed using alphabetical letters, almost like you're coding the track in a way, and while not as convenient as a visual representation would be, once you get used to the editor, it becomes very easy to identify which each letter equivalates to. It was really the best that they could do with the gameplay being the way that it was and the overall limitations of the technology of home consoles at the time. But it's still a great example of how even a limited editor gave a lot of replayability to a simple game. A good amount of games on the NES let players create their own levels, but as time went on, there was a definite lack of level editors in console gaming. However, on the computer, where FYI, before you buy, games are made there, it was a different story.
And Andrew, we can play interactive games on the net together. Poggers.
Wolfenstein happened, and then Doom happened, and it happened.
Don't interrupt me.
It was very explosive in its success, and very shortly after, a lot of really smart fans were creating their own level editors so that others could make their own modified maps. To say the least, Doom was very popular and people wanted more, so there was a surge of competitors, dubbed by many as Doom clones. But one of these clones did something very different. Marathon, made by this tiny unknown company named Bungie, was released on Macintosh PCs made by Apple. In 1996, they released Marathon Infinity that included two editing tools in it. The first was Forge, which was a level creator, and the second was Anvil, which was a physics and graphics editor. These tools were what the developers used to make the Marathon games and packaged it with the final part of the trilogy. Along with the intricate editor giving players infinite replayability, Bungie also supported creative people in their community through their website with contests centered around map creation, along with giving people a place to share their creations to a wider audience. This was a big step in supporting people that wanted to test out complex game design and openly share it with others through the internet. But while Forge and Anvil gave an immense amount of customization, to call them user-friendly would be a bit of a stretch. However, that is something that would soon become better and better in time. Strategy games were kind of blowing up in the late 1990s and early 2000s with Heroes of Might and Magic, Age of Empires, StarCraft, and Advance Wars having a variety of fun-to-use level editors. Now, I could talk about these games, but if I start talking about AoE or Advance Wars, I will most likely never stop, and this video would be like an hour long. So instead, I think it'd be best to sum it up with Warcraft 3 since its impact was kind of insane. If you've never heard of Warcraft 3, well, I can also assume you've probably been watching Ninja on Mixer lately, so I don't know what you're doing here, buddy.
Shit,
He's
I'm
streaming
sorry.
right now. Go poggers in his chat, kid. Warcraft 3 was a classic real-time strategy game that was released to universal acclaim. It also had an extremely extensive world editor that gave you the freedom to do whatever the fuck you wanted. And if you're wondering why access to the editor isn't on the title screen, that's because it's a computer game, dummy. They just threw it in the game files for the nerds to find. If there was anything in the game at any point in time, you can take that and just fuck with it in most any way you desire, which led to a lot of custom scenarios in games that barely resemble the original product. Sheep Tag, where you play as a sheep running away from wolves trying to eat you, or Tower Defense, where your goal is to defend a tree with other players. The possibilities were endless. Couple this editor with the amazing online multiplayer the game offered, and you've easily got one of the most replayable experiences in any game to date. When developers give players the freedom to create whatever they want and share it with others, it diversifies the game more than any single development team could dream to do. And who wouldn't like more free content in a game that is constantly made by people that love it? Hell, some of the user-created games that got popular in Warcraft 3 went on to become kind of a big fucking deal. Like it popularized the MOBA genre with the custom game simply titled Defense of the Ancients, which is it's Dota. MOBA, the biggest esport of all time, spawned from the inspiration of a custom game on Warcraft 3. Isn't that crazy? Okay, I think we can agree that Warcraft 3's world editor was very influential in many ways, but they weren't the only ones doing it. A lot of games, even console games, started to incorporate level editors in the 2000s to give players more to do as they pass their time. Some games were marketed to be level designers, such as Little Big Planet and Trials HD. Fun fact, in Trials, all the original levels in the game were made with the in-game editor to give players a taste of how much they could do in it. Even games without focus on the editor still had pretty good ones, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, Time Splitters, Far Cry 2, Super Smash Bros. Hey,
I'm just trying
shut
to
the fuck
do
up.
the video. We're
shut
supposed to be
the
talking
fuck
about
up
Super
for a second,
Smash
okay?
Brothers. That's what I
Please,
wrote down in the
stop
script.
talking.
What do you mean?
Listen to me. Stop talking. We're going to talk about Halo now. Halo is very important to me, so we're talking about Halo now. That's right, gamers, we're talking about Halo 3 because it was a pinnacle of first-person shooters for the next generational console. So get your game fuel ready, chug it, and have no mercy. And let's talk about Forge. Forge, the level editor, was very simple in Halo 3. You go into the mode through the title screen, choose the map you want to edit, and then hit up on the D-pad and start editing away. There are a ton of maps to edit though, to be honest, most of them have a barren selection. But a couple maps were blank slates that really let players push the limit of this editor. You have a budget that acts as a limit on the amount of objects or items you can place on the map, and the actual editor itself acts like building blocks with physics on every object. Though Forge was very simple, it was also very user-friendly in that simplicity, and there was still tricks in the editor that allowed for more complex designs, such as setting an object to spawn in after a certain amount of time has passed so that you can phase two objects together, or floating something in the air and ending the game so that it skips the physics of placing something down. Much like the people I would match up against in Halo 3 multiplayer, these tricks were time-consuming and annoying, but we dealt with them because we loved the game. Because of that love, players made iconic maps and game modes that I remember to this day. There were a lot of straightforward games like Ice Cream Man, where the goal of a randomly selected player was to run over the slow-moving team of players, lovingly named the Fat Kids. The Fat Kids had to reach a power-up that was considered the ice cream, so that they got a sugar rush that allowed them to move fast and put a stop to the murderous Ice Cream Man. But there was also a lot of maps that were centered around improv or role-playing more than the game itself. For example, in the game mode Teacher, you would either play as the invincible teacher or the students in a school-like setting. The main goal of the students was to sneak away from the teacher and get on top of the school, where they got a power-up that allowed the students to defeat their teacher. The goal of the teacher is, of course, not letting the students do that, but the teacher has a fucking gravity hammer and the ability to kill all the students in the first 5 seconds, yet they never did. And that's because it was a game that really wasn't about winning. It was about one of your friends power tripping as the teacher and all the funny improvised scenarios that came up because of it. Also, a lot of teabagging. That was a thing that we all did a lot. Halo 3's custom games provided me with memories that I will always cherish, despite other games of the same generation having just way better editors. And that's because when I was playing Halo 3, I wasn't good at this thing called talking to people.
I'd rather fucking teabag a bear trap.
I made a lot, and I mean a lot of friends through this game, and most all of them I met through custom game lobbies. Halo 3 was a common interest we all had, but the custom games that we somehow ended up playing brought all of us together. Back then, it was a big deal to have an editor like this in a console game. Now there's a huge selection of games that feature advanced editors and even entire games based around the editor itself, like the aforementioned Little Big Planet and Mario Maker. And it's beautiful to see the creative content content that can be made in so many games. To sum it all up, I guess the meaning behind this video was to just visualize how far level editors in video games have come since their initial conception and show how great they are. Level editors did so much for video games. It was marketable for a game to have, it gave almost infinite replayability to the game, sometimes only being limited by the imagination of players. It gave people a way to express themselves. It created entire new game genres, and in some cases motivated the original developers to keep improving. Most importantly though, it let me and a ton of other people have a really fun time playing on the shitty maps we made and sharing it with our friends. I guess the only thing I have left to say is that I'm thankful for those memories, and I'm thankful for the continued memories that level editors can bring. I, for one, plan on making as many as I can by making phallic imagery whenever possible in my video games. That is the video. Thank you for watching.
I know we couldn't Skype tonight, but that's alright. Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
Wow, I didn't see you there. I don't know why you're still here. The video ended about 15 seconds ago. I can assume that you're either one of two things. One, you're asleep and just letting the video play out, which I appreciate. Or you enjoyed the video, which I also appreciate. But you know what I appreciate even more? If you subscribe and like my video, because that helps me grow as a creator, and it also motivates me to make more videos. All right, I'll let you go back to watching Call Me Carson. Don't get your panties in a twist. Come on, I'm not here to stop you.